we are going to get to the racing report brought to you by CanTorque. There are a few tools to listen to the show, but none of them are built as well as the tools from CanTorque. Check them out at cantorque.com. Colin Livingston joins us once again. And Colin, I do want to start. Now, I understand the history of the Monaco Grand Prix. It's fantastic. I get all of that, and the race was delayed due to the rain, and then they got to change tires and everything. But the delay seemed a little bit longer than normal. The race ended up being shorter, which might have been a saving grace because like that track is it's a boring track. There's very little passing going on. The only excitement was that Ferrari screwed up in how they handled Leclerc coming into the pits, and that cost them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan. I get Monaco's place in F1 history. I get that there's a lot of pomp and circumstance and a lot of extracurricular stuff that goes on at the track, but it is the worst race on the F1 calendar. And these cars have gotten so big and so technical, I mean, really street racing in general is a questionable practice. Next weekend, they're going to be in Baku, which is probably the best out of the street races that's on the calendar. But, the racing that was in Saudi Arabia is not great, at Jeddah. These street races are it's so tight and it's so hard to pass. Like it was a parade. At one point, Fernando Alonso put tires on, got out in front of Lewis Hamilton. He was running 3 to 4 seconds a lap off the pace and was not able to be passed by Hamilton. The only guy that was seemingly able to make passes was Pierre Gasly when he went to the Inters, when everybody else was still on wets as the track dried up. But man, watching all these F1 cars that are so awesome, they're so technical, and just watching them go around in a parade, I don't see the excitement in that. I mean, it's such a shame when the fastest car often doesn't win, but man, when nobody can make a pass, I just don't think it's all that entertaining.
So let me ask you this. So if it's boring to watch on TV, is that offset by the hype and the excitement of it being in that venue, Monaco?
Potentially, but all you get to see when you're in the stands there is, and then you spend most of the time watching it on TV. You don't get to see the overtake. If you're watching a section of a street race and, it's like Baku on the front straightaway, there will be passes going into the first corner. There will be passes on other parts of the track, but again, I don't know that there were more than, probably 10 passes and all of them likely happened in the pits. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I think Monaco's time on the calendar has passed, and they really need to address, the future. There's so many, they keep telling us that there's so many countries that are vying for a race and that they don't really want to keep adding races and extending the calendar. Just my opinion that, no disrespect to the city, no disrespect to the principality, but it's maybe time to move on.
Dude, I would agree wholeheartedly with you. Colin Livingston joins us. You could tell Charles Leclerc wasn't happy. Like they called him into the pits, then they tell him to leave, and he's already in there. Then he has to wait. Like I can't remember seeing that before. Oh. He had to be fuming.
Did you watch the race, Gregor?
Yeah, oh yeah, I was watching. Yeah. His disdain on his voice was.
They broadcast the edited version of Leclerc's radio communication. You talk about whether it's happened or not. A few years ago, Red Bull, last year, I think it was last year, Mercedes made the longest pit stop in history when Valtteri Bottas came in at Monaco. They stripped a wheel nut. It took them 2 days after the car got back to actually get the tire off, and he dropped out of the race. But even worse than that was a few years ago when Danny Ricciardo was still driving for Red Bull. They called him into the pits and they weren't ready. He got to his pit box and there was no crew there. He was leading the race. had the race completely in control. I mean, he was ahead by something like 8 or 10 seconds. They called him in. He basically was able to stop and have lunch before they brought his tires out, made I think what happened was that they changed their mind on the tires that they were going to run him on. And it cost him the race. So something about, I was going to say something about Monaco, but Monaco, where most garage areas have room that you can place your tires and have them fairly close to the front of the garage. At Monaco, you have to have them in the back. So if you make a late second change, it's crazy. And yeah, I mean, the strategy that Ferrari executed or didn't execute this weekend, really, they had two cars that had the chance to win. They should have, at worst, one of them won, the other one finished second on the worst day, and they just got out strategized by Red Bull, figuring out when it was the right time to come in, bringing Leclerc in twice within about 10 laps, just absolutely destroyed his day. And then because of that track, there was no opportunity to recover. So yeah, hopefully these are learning examples for teams like Ferrari, and I'm sure they're going to bounce back and be a little bit more aggressive next time around.
Talking with Colin Limstead for the CanTorque Race Report here on the Jason Gregor Show. We're down at On the Rocks having a great time. Colin, let's talk a little bit about IndyCar and some of their ability or inability to kind of correct when you think that there's been some misdeeds on the course, specifically with Santonio Ferracucci.
Santonio Ferrapucci. Yeah, he's my favorite guy. I mean, I love that guy.
That was a tough one to get out there.
Yeah,
I was set up for failure on that one. Gregor's like, you asked the question. I'm like, oh.
That's why we do our homework study. But yeah, I mean, I pronounce his name a little bit differently. I go with Santino Ferrucci, but Ferrapucci, it's just fine. But yeah, I mean, I'm a staunch advocate that, mistakes, over-aggression, these are things that shouldn't be rewarded. I mean, almost every legitimate racing series has some kind of consequence for causing somebody else damage or harm. NASCAR these days, they definitely seem to, reward these things. We've seen countless times that, driver can do pretty much anything they want in any form of NASCAR. And, if you put a guy in the fence, doesn't matter. Here's your win trophy. In practice, the final practice on Carb Day, Ferrucci basically let David Malukas come by, made a bad decision. He was trying to tuck in behind Malukas, clipped his tire, just clipped his tire, but it was enough to puncture Malukas's tire. He went spinning into the wall. That's a 220 mile an hour impact. So it's no joke, and they take it seriously. But IndyCar took the decision to park him for the rest of practice. They said, listen, we don't accept this kind of behavior. We don't allow this type of driving. We know it wasn't intentional, it wasn't deliberate, but there's going to be a consequence. And I wish more series would, reward solid driving, penalize questionable driving, so that, these kinds of things don't happen. Because, it would be like if let's talk about the NHL. It'd be like if goons ran the league right now, where you don't get to see a Connor McDavid, you don't get to see a Draisaitl, you don't get to see that talent being showcased. And I mean, obviously there's times where, calls aren't made or what have you. But I mean, if you trip a guy, cross check a guy, throw an elbow, chances are you're going to get penalized. But right now in a lot of these forms of racing, they're just not doing it. So, I applaud IndyCar for that. And I mean, it was a hell of a 500 too, on top of that.
Oh, it was a great race, right? Great race. But you think about Scott Dixon, and just, you don't see it very often, but he just made a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, Scotty D is as clutch as they come. He's the money guy, and despite what happened, he would still be the guy that I put every penny I've got on. Getting towards the end of the race, he had a perfect May until that point. He was fast in all the practices, set a new qualifying record, like a pole speed record, had led as much of the race as he wanted to. They would drop back to save fuel. They would, teammates were swapping positions between him and Palou. They were doing everything right, had the race in order. And then when they came for the last pit stop, he just pushed a whisker too hard. You could see when he got to the timing line, was just a whisker too fast, locked up the brakes, just about dumped it, like got the car a little squirrely. Got the speeding penalty, and unfortunately the punishment is to do a drive-through penalty. That took away the chances. I think he ended up finishing 24th. But from that, it turned into a big shootout between Patricio Award, Tony Kanaan, and then eventual winner, Marcus Ericsson. And a couple of late race cautions, red flag. It kind of had everything. But great winner. Chip Ganassi really, showed that they had their program together this year, and great to have a first-time winner.
Now, Colin, I know that the off-camera carters are off this week, but you're racing with a shifter cart. What's the difference between a shifter cart?
Between mine, about 16 extra horsepower and 4 more gears. It is it's a handful. I'm hoping to race. I'm missing a couple components right now as I'm putting everything together, but one way or another, I'll be on track on Sunday. We've got a full slate of racing out at EDKRA this weekend. EDKRA, our track is out in Warburg. It'll be publicly accessible. We don't have any restrictions anymore for COVID or anything like that. It's free to come and watch. And you'll get to see everything from 8-year-old kids to, older guys like me, even older than me, if you can imagine, from, 4-stroke to 2-stroke, some of the best racers, honestly, in North America, we have at our track, and we keep producing, better and better drivers, every year. So yeah, welcome to, anyone's welcome to come out and watch. Great for the kids. There's weekends. We have a food truck out there, so you can even fill everyone's face and, get to see some great racing where there shouldn't be a lot of conflict or controversy.
Awesome. Colin, appreciate it, man. Enjoy the weekend. Get your car fixed.
Working on it.
There you go. That's Colin Livingston of the Racing Report, brought to you by CanTorque. Yes, Struddy and I. Oh, we'd be the best. We just put it there.
It's a flange spreader.
Struddy, get the flange spreader. Go get the spark bucket. I'll figure it out. That's the Racing Report, brought to you by CanTorque. Coming up after 4 o'clock.